All right, so this is going to be feisty. I'm not sure, fiery, but this is for sure a fireside chat that is going to be talking about data growth and network transformation in telcos. So this is going to be a focused discussion that way. I am all set to welcome our seasoned session members. Let's welcome Randeep Sekhon, the Chief Technology Officer from. With that, let's also welcome Sajan Paul, the Managing Director and Country Manager, India and SAC, Juniper Networks. And yes, this session would be moderated by this chat that's coming up by Anil Chopra, the Vice President, Research and Consulting, CMRSL. So over to you all with that.
Hi. Thanks for joining us for a fireside chat on data growth and network transformation tools in telcos. Now, the global network transformation market size is expected to grow from, US dollars, 14 billion US dollars in 2019 to around 97 billion US dollars by 2025, according to various, leading market intelligence reports. Now, that's a whopping 62% growth rate we're talking about here. And this growth actually, while it may sound a lot, but it can actually be expected to accelerate even further, given how the world has transformed from physical to digital to a virtual one over the past 1.5 years, leading to tremendous kind of data growth. So according to reports again, India's data consumption was some 13-14 GB per user per month last year, and this may touch 25 GB, per month per user by 2025. Now, how can networks really scale and gear up to handle this data growth? What sort of technologies are really needed for this kind of transformation? And what are some of the security implications for ensuring seamless and uninterrupted growth? Now, to discuss this exciting topic, I have with me two very special guests, Mr. Randeep Sekhon, CTO Bharti Airtel, and Mr. Sajan Paul, MD and Country Manager, India and SARC for Juniper Networks. A very warm welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Now, my first question is to Randeep. Airtel recently announced its quarterly results that were very, very encouraging, especially the highest ever customer additions in a quarter, crossing a 3 million mark. Now, this is not an easy feat, I must say. So how has Airtel really scaled out its networks to manage this both data and subscriber growth in these unprecedented times? And moreover, this increase in data traffic and subscriber demands a very superior uptime and experience. So how is Airtel addressing this key aspect? Would love to hear from you.
Thank you. And thank you for the compliments on Airtel's performance in the last couple of quarters. It's not just this. But I agree with you that there needs to be a pre-planning and a work done to support such growth. And the growth is coming from the sheer fact, like you mentioned earlier, that the digital adaptability of the people and the take rate of people working from home or using more digital services or using more digital entertainment is just in making the traffic grow higher. So what has Airtel done? I'm assuming to handle this, almost all telcos would be doing it. First of all, we have been very focused on making future-ready networks. I'll give you an example of future-ready networks. Like in RAN, we use what we call as a single RAN technology. Single RAN technology means the radio can be used for any technology, 2G, 3G, 4G. Going forward could be 5G. So last year, when we were into the pandemic for the first time, almost a year from now, year plus, Airtel had before that shut down its 3G networks. So the spectrum which got freed from the 3G in 2100 megahertz, then we quickly reformed it to 4G on the same single RAN hardware, which means we were able to create a lot of capacity. Same if you see on our core networks, on our transport networks, they're all future ready, scalable. So you can just scale using software and you can say network management layers, which will help. During pandemics, we saw it recently where we are going through now, or even last year, that the traffic moves from rural areas from urban areas. So you will have to move your capacities accordingly. But that said, it is not just the capacities which you create, which will help you service this thing. It is how you operate these networks. I mean, you cannot run a network of this size with sheer brute, you can say, manual way of working. So we use a lot of automation in our NOCs, a lot of AI and machine learning use cases we use, and use advanced tools to really measure customer experience. If you really ask me as Airtel, as my CTO, what is my mandate? I have only two tasks to deliver. One is superior customer experience. Second is lowest cost to serve. While you did mention the usage per sub in India being one of the highest in the world in a wireless network, but you also must say in the same breath that Indian ARPUs are one of the lowest in the world. So the cost to serve element becomes very important. And that's where this automation, future ready networks, single RAN kind of networks become very, very important. And I feel that as India moves into the 5G story, we'll have to continue building on this, because not only it will touch the standard, access and use it for entertainment, infotainment, but we have realized that certain sectors have been positively disrupted by the pandemic. For example, e-health, e-education, e-governance. So it's very easy for education sector to adopt a large part of this e-education to continue even if there is no pandemic. What will be needed as an underlying layer for this is a very robust, reliable connectivity. So I think that is what we are trying to create here, so that we can participate in building a digital India, and digital India can then, help India really not only create value internally, but also create value externally for use cases to be transported outside India. So that's the kind of journey what Airtel is going through.
Thank you, Randeep. Very, very interesting insights. Having a future-ready network, but as you said rightly, it's not just about superior customer experience, but also the cost to serve the customer, low RPUs and all, and which is probably lowest in the country, as you rightly said. And having a robust network at the back end is extremely, extremely critical. And you mentioned so many different use cases also. So obviously, and they are only going to grow.
Yes.
Well, when they will grow, they'll need a robust network at the back end to be able to handle the entire growth in traffic. Thank you so much. I come to Sajan. Now, the pandemic's resurgence has, as Randeep was also saying, it has kind of changed how we live, work, play, and consume data. That's where all the new cases of e-health and e-governance and e-education, all those things are kind of coming in. So it has actually shifted our world from physical to virtual literally overnight. I mean, we had to scramble to kind of, be able to handle this entire transition. So, and, as we discussed, that this has caused a huge increase in network scale and complexity. How is Juniper addressing this? You want to share some insights, because we got some really great examples from Randeep on handling such a large network, but I'm sure you can give a wider view of handling this kind of scalability and, complexity.
Sure, Anil. First of all, really honored to be part of this fireside chat. I think in tough times, I think we have seen, I think it's almost over a year since we've been into mixed lockdown and stuff like that, and many of us are working from home, and what we are actually seeing an explosive data growth, and not just data growth. I think it is also growth in metro cities, I can understand, but we are also seeing growth across pan-India, because we have a good amount of workforce in Bangalore, and since the lockdown began, I think most of them have been kind of gone back to their own villages or their own respective hometowns, and they are still working with the same efficacy, and thanks to all the service providers like Airtel supporting many of our employees and our colleagues in catching up with this work. So coming back to Juniper, particularly addressing this issue is, what we've been doing is during the pandemic period, I think we've been always in this track that the technology has been changing from 3G to 4G, and then we are at the cusp of 5G transition. A lot of things fundamentally is different as we go through this journey. From boxes to, we used to talk about boxes to now it's moving into virtualized and cloud native systems, centralized to kind of disaggregated, distributed systems. Then actually we see kind of bolted on security to maybe kind of integrated security, so to speak. So all these things are really play in. And we have to ensure we support the fast scaling demands of our service provider customers like Airtel. we kind of fast-tracked our logistics. Some of our the products have been cutting edge to ensure that the additional capacity can be abstracted quite quickly. And as you may be aware, specific to your question, I think some of the platforms that we built over maybe half a decade ago is actually still one of the leading platform from the capacity point of view, that you can grow from a very small capacity to very large capacity by adding licenses and things like that. So we could actually quickly support our esteemed customers in a shortest period of time to ensure that they kind of catch up with the immediate demand. Yeah.
Thank you, Sajan. I think great to hear that, capacity, they're already built for capacity. So it's just a question of just adding the capacity by adding licenses and all. My question to Randeep, and Randeep, you were talking about the Digital India vision and, you shared some thoughts around that. Now, of course, the telecom sector is transforming the entire communication landscape in India. I mean, Digital India would not be possible without having a robust network, telecom network at the back end. And, so the thing is now operators are actually looking at disruptive technologies, to stay ahead. And you did mention a few technologies, earlier, to kind of stay ahead and relevant in this entire digital transformation of the nation. So, as an organization, as the CTO, are you looking at, and you want to tell us more about some of these disruptive technologies? Which ones do you think are relevant now, or are there some that you're still waiting for, to be mature before they can be adopted?
Okay. I would say you can call it disruptive, or you can call it new way of things, or early adopter of a technology. I mean, if you talk disruptive technology, one name which is like kind of a slogan now is ORAN. Are you using ORAN to build networks, or you will stick with traditional DRAN? It's a new way of building, you can say, RAN technologies. And Airtel has announced, partnerships and rollouts on 4G solutions, which are vRAN based, which is moving to ORAN, and clear roadmap for 5G ORAN as well. That said, I feel in that we are not really waiting it to be mature. We actually want to participate in making it mature. And we want to participate in making it mature with the Indian, you can say, touch or glue to it. I mean, there are Indian companies, there are Indian startups, which are very much active in this domain, and they can participate in creating ORAN-based platform, which could be, India could be a supplier to the world. And Airtel would like to participate and helping them create such things. But that said, I would like to make it a little larger point. I mean, disruptive technology, some time back, cloud was disruptive technology, if you really ask me, because people used to use, custom-made hardware for core, and those used to be really off-shelf made by the OEMs. But we have moved to a cloud-based, you can say, core solutions today, for example, where your hardware comes from a supplier which is independent. It could be anybody who's using like HP or Dell. Then your cloud software could come from VMware or a Red Hat or somebody. Then your the applications may come from another supplier, and your orchestration could come from another supplier. So we can call it is a disruption and use of the best cases. And it is well adopted now. Like Sajin was mentioning, it's a cloud-based technology, cloud-native technologies. They get expanded very, very fast. One reason why Airtel was able to expand its capacity, especially on the core side, much faster, is because it's all cloud. All cloud means you have scalable, you just introduce software licenses, you're able to add capacity on the fly, and then you're able to use orchestrator to, you can say, move the capacities around and balance it accordingly. I'll give you a few more examples which could be interesting for somebody from the industry. Many years back, we used to do drive testing, and drive test, how's your coverage and all those things. Car with the drive test kit used to drive around the roads, We have done away with it. In Airtel, there is no drive test. I mean, I still find some other operators keep doing drive testing. We use the user data to create a digital map of the whole experience of our customers. Then we go back to our smaller grids of even 20 by 20 meter or 40 by 40 meter and saying which grids customer is having an issue. what device customers are having issue to fix. We work with crowdsourced data with the application providers or the social media providers to see what they see. Because the customer experience, which is so close to Airtel team, is not just your network. It is also the application you are using, the device on which you are using the application, and where is this application hosted? Is it hosted on a cache or a CDN or an edge, or is it hosted in a peering location, or is it hosted in a web scalers cloud in, say, Singapore or Hong Kong? All these things will also define how your user experience would be. This is, I would say, a disruptive way of managing customer experience than a traditional way of managing KPIs. So really in Airtel, we are very early adopters of new ways of doing things, because eventually you should do what really makes an impact on experience than to do things for the sake of checking the box. I hope it gives you some flavor of how we adopt disruption much earlier and make it mature.
Absolutely, sir. I think very good, very well explained. I think what you said is not just about testing disruptive technologies or waiting for them to mature, but working with partners to make them mature. And that is one, and the other is to keep the customer experience at the forefront, and then kind of work on that to make sure that all the technologies are well aligned for it. So very well explained. I think good examples. Sajan, I think Juniper has done a number of acquisitions in the recent past. How do you see these helping customers transform and stay ahead of the curve in terms of any new disruptive technologies?
Yeah, I think in the recent past we've been acquiring a number of companies, largely focusing on the three specific domains, which is 5G, cloud, and artificial intelligence. All our acquisition has been in and around that, as Ranjit mentioned. Customer experience and improved customer experience is one of the key criteria. Reduced expenses and increase on the ARPU or increase on the revenue. I think these are always the three kind of pillars of any business. And in this journey, we want to be along with our customers to ensure that we kind of give them the complete air cover in building an infrastructure which is from fairly static to largely scalable or massively scalable IP fabric. Or I think the easiest example is cloud scale. While that word is pretty loosely used, but I would say that cloud scale in transport network, is that really possible? A cloud scale in terms of bringing up the service or creating a network slice to support the new the ORAN and other thing, which will definitely translate into a much better customer experience, so to speak. So our acquisitions, a number of acquisitions we have done. One is in the automation space, which we call it the Paragon Automation Suite. It's got a collection of many things, starting right from the radio head, all the way up to the demand is being picked up and translated that into a network slice, the transport with appropriate quality of service, and then going all the way up to the backend services where the content is given. So we are actually working. A few of these acquisitions are still in progress, not able to articulate it here, but many of those building pieces are building blocks are already in place. One of the maybe older acquisition is our MIST, Wi-Fi, AI-driven Wi-Fi technology that will come in. So while we brought one of the best AI engine from the industry, we are actually putting that AI engine and machine learning together in our entire product suite. While it began in Wi-Fi, we are doing that in our wired networking. We are doing it in our security infrastructure and data center. The other acquisition we had is Apstra. Apstra is a multi-vendor heterogeneous data center orchestration tool. We have a number of deployments. This is not something we are making it to work together, but it kind of work across heterogeneous systems. I would say cradle to grave within the data center architecture. The number of them, acquisitions which are coming in to ensure that we make this automation foolproof. And with AI and ML, I think automation which will have much more, kind of teeth, so to speak. As Randeep rightly said, they have kind of done away with the drive testing and then moved into crowdsourcing and then I'm sure they must be using some kind of AI engine to mine data from social media and then correlate some of the, or make sense out of this data and then come up with a digital map. I think, can I come up with a digital map of your network? Map that users experience and give a kind of a transport access and the complete life cycle of that session. I think that would be a very ambitious program that we're running.
Thank you, Sajan. I think, good point, 5G, automation, AI, ML. I think with this kind of data growth and all, I think these technologies are becoming extremely crucial to be able to manage, such large scale networks. And, you talked about some examples that, Randeep had given. Randeep, maybe we could just quickly, before I move into the next topic, which is on security, maybe understand from you about, usage of AI, ML, because that seems to be becoming very crucial everywhere, right, nowadays. So do you see that usage in terms of drawing out all the maps and all that, Sajan referred to? Maybe you could just explain a little bit of that before we move to the next point.
I think with so many users using so many applications, there is impossible to run it through a traditional system and make a meaningful output of it. So you really have to run your machine learning algorithms, use data science to build correlations and find out what, for customer experience. Again, this is again used for network architecture, designing your right network flow, and then your customer experience. We do lots and lots of them. We have a full data science department in Airtel, which works not only for the data science for the network part itself, that is one part. And then there is a data science part on even for giving you example on where should we invest, which next village should we cover, to go back into not just using GIS or the population as the only filter. You use many other filters using overlays of different layers to come out with where is the next place where Airtel services should be deployed. Similarly, on the data which you get from different uncorrelated, unstructured data, it can be only made sense if you bring everything into the network data lake and then do something about it, because that's how it works. On AI is a little loosely used term. I would say we are not yet cognitive, but we are definitely moving towards using some intelligence correlations, if I may say, to do some interventions at the time where a human eye may not see that logic. But we are definitely working with our partners to create those, use case. Internally, we want to move, if I want to say, from a reactive network, which means you react after a customer had a problem or react when network has a problem, to proactive, where you can say, oh, this is going to have a problem, rather than reacting after the problem has occurred, eventually to predictive, where you will predict it before even let's say the green was a good state and red was a bad state. Before the green turns to amber and then turns to red, you will predict it and you will fix it. This is only possible if you have mature algorithms. We, I would say, are right now in a little bit of a between reactive and proactive state. More proactive than reactive. But we would ideally like to move to predictive, which is only possible through AML kind of use cases, because you cannot predict it using a normal correlation algorithms. You will have to predict it using some intelligent algorithms.
Right, thank you. Which brings me to the next question, which is more around security. Because the industry across has been actually witnessing an increase in shorter duration of volumetric attacks, which are very fast and stealthy, and leaders like yourself have no choice but to kind of stay ahead. So are you looking at transiting from traditional security solutions that would usually miss such attacks to new age connected security solutions? How are you really looking at such volumetric attacks?
Absolutely. I again say this is again a no-brainer, right? If you really ask me, with everything being connected and every important data of the country, if you may say, is going through these connected networks, and so we have to keep our networks secure all the time, our customer data secure all the time, our customers' privacy secure all the time. This is very paramount to Airtel's principles and ethos, and we have deployed lots and lots of security solutions, both from enterprise security, which every enterprise would do, and also from a network security perspective. We have SOCs, security operation centers, which are running 24/7s, which are again using machine learning algorithms to detect attacks. Because again, you'll have to read a pattern and correlate and saying it seems to be like a attack. But we also work with partners and partners like Juniper, where you can actually prevent an attack at the ingress stage. So you do not need to bring it in and then increase your vulnerability. Can you do? Because eventually the access will come either from your network side or will come from access user side. There are a lot of rogue IoT devices which keep bringing things into your network. So can you stop it at the ingest point? Can you build these algorithms which will work at the edge of your network and block it from there rather than bringing it all the way? These are the kind of network interventions you're doing. In the current networks, like 4G networks, 4G based networks, if I say, security has been more like a bolt-on kind of a philosophy, because it was not so important, suddenly became important. And before the technology came, this did not have these kind of inherent things, and we bolted on all these various architectural and software interventions, But in 5G, it is more like a built-in. So 5G has a built-in security as a very important part, because 5G is conceived to not just run a usual wireless communication. It is supposed to run an infrastructure. It may be running the grid of a country. It may be running an essential service of a country, where security will take even more higher paramount importance than what it is for individuals' data security. So when we will architect and deploy our 5G networks, some part of it we are deploying today to make sure that our network is secure, not just for B2C kind of a use case, but also for a B2B use case.
Thank you, Randeep. I think you've already given us some glimpses into the 5G. And I do have a question which I'll ask, in the discussion later on 5G. I would love to hear your viewpoints around that. But before that, I would like to continue with the security discussion. And Sajan, I think a key requirement to really offer protection from, these kind of volumetric attacks is network visibility. It's important to have a complete visibility of the entire network before you can actually start protecting it and figuring out where the threats are coming from and all. How do you really provide this required network visibility to combat these attacks? And moreover, Randeep already indicated, usage of AI ML to kind of look at the volumes of attack. But does that mean that traditional security solutions, to thwart these kind of attacks are not really sufficient anymore? How do you really address that?
Yeah, so I think if you go back to our the start of the discussion, we started off with the data explosion and the huge amount of data growth across various network elements. And today the biggest issue that we see is you can secure something only if you have visibility, right? Otherwise, you may, if you have to block a kind of a road which will disrupt the entire traffic, and then you may be trying to find a needle in a haystack, thereby but creating a major roadblock. In our case, we are talking about 100 gig or even going forward 400 gig per interface is kind of the bandwidth, and then that will translate back into the DWDM and the optical bandwidth going across. How quickly can I screen that kind of volumetric data which is on the interface? So Juniper has built special ASICs, which is application specific integrated circuits, to ensure that you have a wire rate screening of information which is coming in, coupled with AI/ML driven intelligence to see that what traffic is really an aberration, or what is the benchmark, what is the aberration. And these things, I think rightly said, in security, there is nothing called static state. Any security posture can change. It's almost in real time dynamic. So can I really ingest the intelligence available globally and then apply it at the speed of light into the network? I mean, I'm just using some analogy here, but we are trying to do that in our solutions, and all our network that's built for our service provider friends. they are capable of screening at wire rate. I think very, very rarely you find in merchant silicon based network systems, but I think we are using very custom silicon to ensure that these are seen. Once it is done, whether it's volumetric or session centric or small sessions, but hundreds and thousands of sessions being created, so we can actually kind of prevent that at wire rate at the network level, so that as Ranjit rightly said, if I can block the attack at the edge of the network, I think you can save a lot of bandwidth and services within it, both your bandwidth cost at the international level or in your domestic circuit. I think we are doing a lot of efforts. I think we are one of the leading vendors who can do at wire rate, and coupled with our technology partner Corero, I think together we are driving this new age AI/ML driven attack prevention.
Thank you, Sajan. I think good insight from you. Randeep, I'll come to the 5G part. I've been we're curious to know and eager to know about 5G. I believe Airtel has emerged as the first telecom operator in the country to demonstrate 5G readiness. So would love to know from you, how is 5G empowering your communication network to support the kind of data growth that we are seeing happening right now? Some of the new applications like IoT or industrial automation, maybe even OTT. How are you really seeing 5G empowering this?
First of all, I think what we did was we demoed that our network is ready for 5G, and it was not available for commercial customers because it was a demo of, like I explained to you earlier, the single RAN network. So it was a demo of our single RAN network that it can through software just be a 5G access. And then of course our transport and core is ready to support a 5G play. Right now, India doesn't have 5G networks. We are under trials now. Government has allocated trial frequencies for all the operators to go ahead and deploy trial networks. So Airtel has also the process ongoing for deploying these trial networks to try out the various use cases for India. So when the auction will happen depends upon the government's notification. Spectrum auction in the what we call as sub-6 or 3500 frequency, that is the time when India will really see, customer will see a 5G network. Technically, you can do today also on your 4G frequencies, but then you will lose a sense because the bandwidth will be so less that the early users will not experience a faster 5G network as they may expect to. So that said, I would say, let's say industry estimate is that end of this calendar year or early part of next calendar year, there will be auctions. Now, as we are ready, I'm assuming my other operators are also ready. So it will then start a rollout journey and we'll start seeing 5G across India. 5G will have two big angles to it. I think the first is the 5G B2C use case. The 5G devices in India are already there. I mean, there are in our own networks, I can't give a number, but there is a decent big in millions number of 5G ready devices, because there are many device providers who are already selling 5G ready devices in India. So by the time we get ready to launch, there will be a very decent number of Indians with 5G network, 5G handset already in their hands. So the day you put it on for commercial use, there will be a big batch of customers who will start using 5G day one. So if you see India 4G speeds, if you use any cloud source data and see India's 4G speeds for any operator, and compare it with the 4G speeds of a little bit more mature markets, you see India has a very low 4G speeds as we compare to others, purely because the wireline part is missing. Not so much, it is only limited to big cities, and the wireless is the only way to access network. And it is, I would say, pretty cheap. So people really consume a lot of data, and hence more users are on that data. And we have already like 600 to 700 million data consumers in the country already. So the spectrum tranches average per operator is 55 to 60 megahertz, which is not enough to handle this much of traffic. Hence the average speeds come pretty low. And when you start doing it for entertainment and all, it is okay. But if you want to run it for B2C, I'm still on B2C. If you want to run it for, let's say we are doing today a recording of a seminar, or you can say some minister want to speak to, a bureaucrat wants to speak to village, let's say Sarpanch or the area in this thing, and want to communicate with him how the government schemes are running, you will need a more robust wireless access. And at that time, you will not like these interventions to keep breaking or something like that, which means the wireless speeds will have to improve in India. And I believe 5G is the way to improve those wireless experience considerably. When there will be you see what happened, many people were using wireless only to access phones. Otherwise, kids were going to school, parents were going to office. Moment everybody went in and they did not have a wireline connection, which was the case with, I'm sure in Sajan's case also, when people moved to rural India, where there is no wireline access, and they were working on wireless networks, they face challenges, especially if they're deep rural, on the kind of speeds they can get, on the kind of resilient network they can get. So I would see 5G will fix that edge. So in some way, India will have a real experience of a faster wireless and network, and this will kind of give impetus to e-health, e-education, e-governance. But there are bigger piece, which is what we call as Industry 4.0 applications, which is the B2B applications, which are today in a very nascent stage. If you personally ask me, as an Indian, I feel that India should have been much higher in terms of exporting to the world things made in India. We kind of have a little imbalance there. We get more things because our industry needs to probably get more automated, more efficient, and then compete with South Asian or a European industry in quality and economic competitiveness. Industry 4.0 will really give you these use cases in mining, manufacturing, health, ports, shipping, airports. So I think once these applications, they will be then kind of having a lot of IoT devices. This is only possible through IoT. I mean, if we talk about a port, if a port has wanting to be a driverless port and a 24-hour port and a dark port where a ship can be offloaded and loaded in a dark area where the machines are working, then you will need probably hundreds and thousands of IoT devices to seamlessly being orchestrated by a smart program to load and offload a ship in a pitch darkness. That time the network required will need this low latency and a higher reliability kind of things, which 5G will provide. So I would say that will then bring us to an Industrial 4.0 revolution in India, which will allow Indian companies to create value and not only be significant internally so that India imports less and exports more, but also probably we are able to generate some unicorn applications where the digital India is not only for India, but for the world. I mean, I am a true believer in it. And I feel that 5G or any cusp of technology sometimes triggers innovation. And I believe with IoT, big data, AI, ML, and 5G kind of access, this trioca of AI, ML, 5G, and the IoT connected world will really give us to become more efficient as Indian industry. So I am very excited to be participating in it with our enterprise customers and our government bodies. I think this will give us a good edge. That's my take.
Thank you, Randeep. I think really good example of using of 5G, AI, ML, and IoT for some new kinds of applications, especially with the dark port as an example. So, Sajan, tell us about how is Juniper really enabling these new kinds of applications for customers. I think one key requirement, for instance, in 5G would be slicing, right? Network slicing. So, are there new ways or new technologies that are used to enable these kind of applications and run them efficiently and implement them more efficiently, manage them more efficiently?
Yeah, I think again, it'll go back to the customer experience. I think that's our overarching theme, right? So 5G certainly will provide a huge amount of bandwidth, and that could be probably the tipping point where you will actually see that all these use cases will coming alive, and service providers also will find they're part of that overall value chain, whether it's a consumer focused or industry 4.0 or connected vehicles or maybe ultra HD streaming or whatever be the use case for that matter. I think all this will come in, and all of this will need a lot of connectivity as we move content to cloud. Your ramp to cloud, which is going to be 5G, so to speak, from a connectivity point of view, while there are other value chain, information, and a part of the value chain does exist as a service provider. That's a business call. But otherwise, it's going to be a ramp to the cloud where the content is accessed by a consumer, and how quickly, how predictably you can access. Now, if you look at where Juniper plays a very important role is right from the radio network or radio head. Can I create a quality of service profile for a specific service? Maybe an industry 4.0, which may need maybe a very predictable, or the other example what Randeep said, bureaucrat want to talk to somebody who is delivering a service in certain area, which need to be more predictable and mission critical. In that case, and millions of such connections, so to speak, can I pick up an automated input from the radio head and then translate that into a network slice and manage the quality of service and eventually bring it up to the billing system so that the whole life cycle of that services is being done. I think that is where Juniper will play a very important role, stitching the entire ramp, and it is a fairly automated. A lot of technology still play into that. AIML is certainly one of them, and there are many other tools will actually really play into this technology. We are actually one of the leading players in that area to ensure that that the entire life cycle of this connectivity is taken care of.
Thank you, Sajan. So that actually brings me to the end of the discussion. But just as a parting thing, maybe I'd like to hear from both of you any last words that you'd like to share on network transformation and data growth. So Randeep, do you have any last words to share?
I would like to leave a thought with the listeners, a word called collaboration. The best way India can use the 5G capabilities or the possibilities if industry collaborates. Because unlike a two-layer access network which we have built now in 4G, there is no need of collaboration. But in a 5G use case, you will need collaborations between many stakeholders. The industry itself, the application providers, the IoT providers, the cloud, the public cloud guys, and the access providers like Airtel. I mean, the value will get created if people collaborate. And then this value should be created like a toolkit, if I may say, so that it can be exported. It is like a complete nicely done thing. It can be exported. If we can have sticking with the same dark port, if we can have a dark port in India, why can't these stakeholders just go and have a dark port in other parts of the world? Dark logistics, whatever we want to say. So collaboration would be key, and the value creation will sit not just within the industry players, but will also sit outside. So if we can collaborate as Indian enterprise and Indian startups, this will be a great opportunity to create value and drive the digital India agenda even more further.
Thank you, Randeep. Sajan, any conclusive insights from you?
I think very well said, Randeep. Actually, collaboration is the key word. All various stakeholders, not just just participate in what you're comfortable, but come up with new innovations, because it's a vast canvas, and network may be just one piece of the whole puzzle, and there are a whole lot of use cases and innovations which can come in, which will again kind of ensure that you have better customer experience, lower expenses, and higher ARPU, so to speak. I think all this can be managed, and the technologies that enable them is the automation, AI/ML, and now we have the secure service edge, and a lot of other technologies will come in, and we collaborate together to actually deliver a remarkable customer experience.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for all those valuable insights. I'm sure that the audience will find it really, really useful. It was an absolute pleasure to moderate this chat with both of you, to get all those great insights. Thank you to all the attendees. I hope you found this chat really insightful. Thank you so much once again, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Well, Randeep, Sajan, and Anil, I have to say a thank you to you. It is indeed a no-brainer, as you talked about, that data leaders of organizations need to create new strategies and roadmaps to ready the path for sustainable growth while cultivating a data-centric and also a digital culture inside the DNA of the organogram, as we say, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, while I would urge all of you to just take a bit of time to also hang out and check the Hitachi Vantara booth at the Experience Zone, and don't forget to fill in the feedback forms at the Hitachi Vantara booth as well. While I'm just readying up to bring on to you the next session, the title of which looks very, very interesting: By, of, and for the people. All right. So we'll get talking about it. Just stay tuned.